my friends, welcome back to the bench. Today we're going to be showing you how to thin your paints, and it's going to be divided into two: solvents and acrylics. And I'm not going to thin all of these. I'm just going to do one acrylic, one solvent, and it's the same across the board. Once you get the consistency of either one, you just carry that on to all of them. And but I'm showing you the variety of paint that is out there. These are just some. I probably missed a few brands. I grabbed what I could to show you how many paints there actually are out there. Quite a few. And before I go any further, please subscribe to the channel if you are into anything hobby related as far as building and painting models. Also 3D printing also covers that too. I get a lot of questions from you guys who are 3D printing, because you need the prime, and you also want to paint your product there too. But yeah, please subscribe if you're into any of that. I'm asking now, and we'll ask at the end of the video. And if you're into that, you're going to love the channel. We do multiple videos a week, anything to do with the hobby, any help I can promote, and testing variety of colors, airbrushes, and products. Anyway, here we go forward. So, as you see in front of you, a sea of paint brands. And I laid them out here like this so you guys can see how different they all are, but how similar they're all going to be as far as thinning them goes. And we're going to break it down into solvent-based, acrylic-based. And the difference will be, to a layman, is to look for a little flame logo on the product. By that I mean we'll start with, don't pick any of these, I guess. Just look for a little flame logo. Right there. That means it's a solvent is involved. It possibly could be flammable. Now for Tamiya, the Tamiya brand, the basic Tamiya, where is that? It's over here. Okay, so people say, oh, it's an acrylic. It's water-based. And this has got the biggest flame logo of any paint out there. Right next to the word acrylic, to let you know it's a solvent-based paint. It's pretty much an acrylic lacquer. Some will actually tell you on the label, here we go, MRP out of Slovakia, right up front, here we go, acrylic lacquer paint for airbrushing. Usually when it says for airbrushing, it's pre-thinned. This is pre-thinned, and I'll show you that in just a second. So, you want to look for a flame logo. I don't know if this Finishes put the flame logo on theirs, because Finishes is a really tiny company out of Japan. It's like a mom and pop almost. It might be in here somewhere. This is a total Japanese label. There is no flame logo on this, but this is without a doubt a lacquer paint. And it has that traditional cap from Gaia. Yeah, it's got that dual cap. These are kind of hard to find. There is a source in the USA where I got mine from. It's a nice paint, but so difficult to find. I don't bring it up too often, but you can see right here, it doesn't have the flame logo, but it's going to tell you right there, a synthetic resin paint, right? Pigment, resin, petroleum related, no fires. That's their flame logo. So this is the one rarity that doesn't have the flame logo. However, if it's flammable, it should have it, or even mention that on it. This is Otakon. It's got all your warnings, resin, acrylic, resin, solvent. Hold on, right there. So, if you go to, say, a pure acrylic, say scale color, you're not going to find any flame logo on it. Turbo Dork, no flame logo at all. It's total water-based. Vallejo, where's my Vallejo? Right in front of me, right? Here we are. Vallejo, no flame logo at all. This is Sun and 7. Now, here is Sun and 7's. This is their a solvent-based paint. Will this have a flame logo? Yep, it's right there. A little different, but there you can see it. This is their acrylic paint. No flame logo, so this is not a solvent-based acrylic at all. So that's how you're going to use it as a basis. You should know when you purchase the paint if it's a solvent base. This AK Real Color line, very good line. It's just like Tamiya. It's a solvent-based acrylic. This SMS, though their other line is pre-thinned, it is, of course, it says it right in the front. Let's go again. Here we are. Acrylic lacquer. Their big bottle premium line, pre-thinned. Don't need anything. Put it in the airbrush and spray it. Their new smaller bottles, the advanced line, is a thicker paint, so you can have more control when you're brushing it on. And but this can also be thinned to be airbrushed. You're not going to thin your paints as much when you brush them. And I'll mention that too in the video. So, here's the type of paints that we have. AK Extreme. This is a solvent. I believe it's an enamel base. There's your logo. Even though AK makes all their other products are acrylic. And then along the way, they came out with the acrylic lacquer like Tamiya. Then they came out with this Extreme Metal. These are like their version of, say, All Clad. And those are pre-thinned. We lost our green stuff world. This is Zerk paints out of Australia. Pre-thinned, acrylic-based. However, slick packaging. However, these also have a warning. Keep away from flame, so without having the flame logo, but it still has the warning there on the side. That is an acrylic solvent. This is Vallejo acrylic. Now this is a pure acrylic. No logo for the flame on this. These are pure water-based metal colors. One of the rare ones that are out there to be metal colors and be an acrylic. This is Inspire. This is, I believe it, yep, there you go. It's a solvent paint. Big flame logo right there. Pre-thinned. You can see it's pre-thinned right there. Outlaw paints out of Australia. Acrylic lacquers. Pre-thinned. This is Buster Custom Colors. This is a U.S. company. They sent me the products. I'll be testing these soon. Pre-thinned. Now, you'll know they're pre-thinned. If you're buying it, it'll tell you. I mean, we all know All Clad, one of the first pre-thinned paints I started using. Look how thin it is. Now, this is how thin the metal colors need to be. It's just the process. You can actually have your lacquers this thin. And by that thin, I mean water. We're going to keep water on the bench so I can show you how thin we're going to make our solvent-based paints. And when they say skim milk, this is what skim milk looks like. It's water. I just use water as an example. And for the acrylics, we're going to thin them like regular milk, which I put in this glass jar here. This is regular, straight, vitamin D milk, not skim, not low fat. And you can see it's a little thicker, and it leaves a little trail of the color on the side. Of the white anyway, see it? And that's how you're going to use your judgment. You're going to solvents like water, acrylics. You're not going to go as much like regular milk. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Now, all of these have their own thinner. All of them have their own thinner, and I'll show you what I mean. Mr. Leveling. Display. Another display. Good thinner, by the way. Jump Wind. Here's for the Extreme, because it's an enamel. That's probably a white spirit. SMS Premium Thinner. Flow Improver and thinner for Vallejo. AK Acrylic Thinner. E7. Gaia. Tamiya. That's their enamel. Tamiya. That's their lacquer. And their acrylic is behind me. I didn't grab that one. Here's a little Jump Wind. Another one. A leveling thinner. See it? Leveling. Mr. Color Aqueous. This is their Aqueous. Their Aqueous is like Real Color and the Tamiya acrylic. It's a solvent-based acrylic. There's a MIGS acrylic thinner. My favorite, isopropyl alcohol. We're going to go over that in a second. All right. I made a mess here. Let me clear out these. Let me clear these out, because you only need one, and that's the point of the video. Well, for the solvent, you only need one. So let me pause the camera and get these things out of here. Boom, they're gone. All right, so I'm going to show you what I want each paint to look like. Not each one, but I want a solvent to look like, and what I want an acrylic to look like before you go ahead and airbrush it. And you're going to notice something with certain brands. Within the brand, they might look different. Hobby Mio, all their paints are airbrush ready. Spastics, all airbrush ready. It's this E7 that's a little different. Now this is their candies come in these large jars. I'm not quite sure why, but it's pre-thinned. However, their regular paint come in these Gaia-sized jars, not pre-thinned. These are thick just like Gaia. So, but you can use your own judgment. You're going to see how we want these consistency to be the same across the board. And this is, okay, Silver Oaks, this is the thickest paint in the world. This stuff is like molasses, but it doesn't matter because we're just going to thin it all the way down to the same as all we want our solvent paints to look like. Now the acrylics are a different story. We want them a little thicker. We're not going to thin them as much. And as far as what to thin them with, I like this universal airbrush thinner. A little tricky to get in America. It's in the UK. I grabbed this on Amazon and I liked it. And this works across the board, rarely also with Vallejo. It's one of the few that will work with Vallejo. Now, I'm going to bring up Vallejo right now. If you're using Vallejo and you're buying it at the store, just buy their thinner. Or this. Because, we lost E7. Because you can't use alcohol, any kind of alcohol-based thinner with Vallejo. It wreaks havoc with the paint. It destroys it, clumps it up, then it gets jammed in the airbrush, and it takes a lot to break it down. You want no kind of alcohol base at all in their thinners, where a lot of these will have an alcohol or some kind of a solvent in it, but it won't harm other paints like it harms Vallejo. For some reason, it just does not play games. So do not use any kind of alcohol when you're going to thin your Vallejo paints. Go ahead and buy theirs or this one. Now I recommend this. It's in a big bottle. It's about 15 bucks, but it'll thin. Oh, I found this to thin every acrylic paint. My own video where I showed a recipe to make your own thinner and your own acrylic cleaner, I still don't recommend pouring that into Vallejo. Whereas this, they got the formula right. It doesn't harm the Vallejo. It's a really good acrylic paint thinner right across the board. So I do recommend this. Now, Universal comes with a nice chart that I don't need anymore. Obviously, you get it down once you get it down. But this is their chart, and you can see it's telling you how much the percentage is at the bottom, percentage of thinner, and this is the brand of paint. Scale 75, Tamiya, Testers acrylic, all the way up. Aqueous, halfway, 50-50. You know, Italeri, I don't have any Italeri paint. That's almost, what's that, 70% thin? Look at that. Vallejo model color, this is not their air. The air I would thin a little bit. I put a few drops in the air, even though it's made, air means it's made for airbrushing. I put a couple drops anyway. I like it a little thinner, and they do too. You can see right here, about 10-15% of thinner. But their regular brushing paint, look how much it needs to be thin to be airbrushed. Quite a bit. Quite a bit. I don't even think I have any here. I have mostly airbrush paints. But, yeah, I'll see if I can get a still shot of this. Or if you want to pause the camera right there, pause the video right there, and you can use this as a guide. I've posted this before, though. I have posted this before. And as far as a solvent paint, I recommend just grabbing Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. Their regular thinner is good too. Leveling lets it takes a little longer to dry, even though it's still within minutes it's dry. It allows it to level off and remove any roughness that you might see. Do not use this stuff. Clean your airbrush with this, but don't thin the paint with it. It's a little too hot. We call it hot. And it could harm certain plastics. You don't know. Each company might have a different type of plastic. It'll affect it. Leave it alone. I buy this almost monthly. I do clean my airbrushes with this. So I do recommend it for cleaning the airbrush, which is another video. This is acetone. You don't want to use this either. Some guys will actually thin their old-fashioned Testers enamels with acetone or their nail polish. I still would rather use a less hot, hobby-based thinner. That's just me. But anyway, I'm not going to go nuts and go across the board. You can tell right away if it's made for airbrush. I mean, oh, that's got one of those caps on it. You can tell by looking at it that it's going to be super thick or the Gaia, which is thick. I just did a few videos of Gaia. You can see that's not like water. You can see it's thick. Not super thick, though. Tamiya, I find to be a little bit on the thinner side as far as most of these paints go. And I get certain colors that I only airbrush, and for that, I will actually top off a brand new jar to the top with a solvent with my thinner, shake it up, and I'll mark it with an A, and it's airbrush only because it's pre-thinned. And you can just top that off right there. It's not quite 50-50 because it's already kind of thin. The point of all this is you want it to be the same thinness across the board if it's a solvent. And for that, I'll go ahead and just grab anything here. Now this is what I'm about to do works for everything. This is a lacquer. This is my Mecha Empire. This is an enamel. 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 We're still going to use Mr. Leveling Thinner for all of the solvents. If it has a flame logo on it, we're going to use it, okay? You can also probably use alcohol. Where's my isopropyl? Right here. This works well with Tamiya. Any of the acrylic lacquers, it'll work fine. You can use isopropyl alcohol. Now the thing is, it's going to dry super fast. You're going to spray it. Practically, when you go in for the second passing with the airbrush, it's practically dry, which is good if you know what you're doing and you want to build a model fast. Isopropyl alcohol evaporates. You know, when you rub it on your skin, it's gone. You know, it absorbs fast. It evaporates fast. It will do the same thing to the paint. You can thin it. There's no problem. You can thin a lot of these solvents with isopropyl alcohol. This one here, it's pretty thin, but that's, see, I said it's acrylic lacquer. That you can do. But for now, we're going to go with Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. I just want to show you how we're going to thin these paints. All right, here's the purple. You can see how thick it is. That's it. All right, and that's not really, really thick. Not like the A-OK. I'll tell you that right now. So we're going to use the stick trick where you hold the stick against the rim of the jar. Just pour a little bit. It'll follow the stick down and go right in. Now, I don't have to put a ton because I'm just going to show you what I want it to look like once it's thinned. Okay, so you can see how thick it is. It barely will run down the side of the cup right here. So that is thick. All right, so this is your guidance right here. Let me grab a pipette. Now I'm going to go by eye. I've been doing it long enough, but you just want to know you can't really over thin these lacquers. I'm just going to put, this is the same amount of paint right there. All right, so we'll let that sit there. So you want to scrape the bottom, and now we're at 50-50. But you can see it's still not quite like water, and that's why I put the water here, so you guys can see. If you just tap it, and you can see how the water reacts, and you want that here. It's almost like slow-moving waves. Yeah, this is good enough to spray, but you can really stretch your paint out by thinning it a lot more. I mean, don't forget, look at what some of these look like that are pre-thinned. I mean, they're like water. All right? So, let's go ahead and add some more. We're going to double up on this. Not double up. We're going to go like 30% paint and 70% thinner. All right? Now we're going to stir it up again. And now look, I just put a few drops of paint in from the jar. But look how much I have now. It's not breaking down at all. And my trick is just use this as your guide. All right? And I like to drag the stick with the paint on it and see if it flows. Even though it's really wet, it's still going to leave pigment behind on the side of the cup as it runs back down. That's a good thickness right there. It's thin. It's ready to go. There's no secret sauce here. Just get used to what this looks like. I mean, I can thin this even more, and it's just going to paint perfectly. And I do that when you guys see all my tests. I just put a couple of drops of paint, and I put a bunch of thinner in, and I am ready to go. Now we really have the consistency. See it? Now it's like water. And that's it. That is it. That's just what you want all of the solvents to look like, no matter what they are. Not if they're pre-thin. Let them go if they're pre-thin. All right? And I would recommend this thinner or their regular thinner. Across the board, I just like their thinner. It's not very hot. It's really good. But if you can only find one of the other brands, if you got a jug of Gaia, same, it's on the same level. Same exact thing as these, but you want a hobby brand. They're just not as hot and they won't melt or affect the plastic. All right, this works with everything I just said with a flame logo, even if it's an acrylic. Even if it's an enamel. Use this leveling thinner, these lacquer thinners for the hobby. You can also get away with the acrylic lacquers, which are this. What's an acrylic lacquer here? There's a bunch. A bunch of them are already pre-thinned. But if you see acrylic lacquer, you can go ahead and use isopropyl alcohol. You're going to get the same effect, except it's going to dry very fast. Very fast. So you got to be prepared for that. But it will thin the paint, and it won't affect anything at all. Oops. All right, keep hitting the camera. All right, now let me show you how we're going to thin an acrylic. All right. Let me get another cup. You want to get these paint stirrers. I get these by the 1,000. I cut them in half. And let's go ahead and cut one in half. That's them full length. Most of the jars are fine as far as length goes. And I cut them in half, and I end up with 2,000 paint stirrers. And these are the cups you want. These cups are beautiful. No nubbies in the bottom. You could stir it and no paint goes flying. Oh, let me show you what I mean by nubbies in the bottom. Hold on one second. All right, here's the other cups I used to have. I got rid of them. You can see these nubs in the bottom. There's one here. You can see it. What happened was my toothpicks and my stirrer sticks were getting stuck on it. Like, can you hear it? I was stirring up the paint, and it was flinging paint everywhere. And they're just not good for that. You have to, like, I had to, like, stir in the middle. No matter what I did, I kept clinging and hitting that stupid nub. And even paint would get caught in there. I couldn't get most of the pigments to mix. These are awful. I throw these away, and I ordered some with no nub in the bottom. Silence. Throw that one away. All right. So let's go ahead and grab an acrylic. I don't know what to grab here. We'll go with this AK. This is their 3rd gen paint line. This is a metallic green, pretty green. All right. Let's go ahead. Oop. Let's go ahead and pour some in. Now look how thick this paint is. That is really thick. I'll flip it over and show you. That's thick. All right. So this is going to take a little bit to thin down. But we don't want to thin it down like this, like to water. We just don't. It's too much for an acrylic. It'll break down its surface tension, and you won't get anything to... let me get this... hold on, guys. I'm going to cover up my leveling thinner before that goes flying. Just bought this, man. I just bought it. 12 bucks. All right. We'll go ahead and use this one. This is the easiest to get as far as the USA goes, where I am located. All right. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to start with that. All right. We want it to be the consistency of this milk. So let's go ahead and mix that up. Now you want to scrape, get all of the pigment off of the bottom. You want to do this for a little bit, 20, 30 seconds. And there you go. Now this is about a milk consistency. You can see it's not as thin as the paint, as the solvent paint. See it? It's a little thicker, and it actually will match this. And that's it. You are good to go. I only put, about 25, 30% versus 50 to 70% of that. It's that easy, and you are ready to go. I would recommend an acrylic paint thinner such as this one from Impreza, or this Ultimate Airbrush thinner, or my blend. My blend, though, I wouldn't use with Vallejo. This or this will work with Vallejo. They're the only two that will. I'll be sure to put a link below to this. And there's also a flow improver by them also. I will put the link below to that. But this is all it takes. This is how you're going to thin your paint. It's that easy. You don't need science. You don't have to weigh it. You don't have to count the little marks. You don't have to count the little marks on here. You might want to count the marks at first. I was doing that. Oh, 50, 50. And then you just get it. You just get it right. You just get it right. It is easier to work with a solvent versus a acrylic to get it just right. You don't want to over thin your acrylics. But once you get them just right, they go on nice. The acrylics do have to go on a primer, where a lot of times I can just spray, say this, what is this, Mr. Color? This can go right on plastic without a primer. No problem at all. And you're going to know if the color is pre-thin, even if it doesn't say. It will say most of the time on the label. This is Zero Paints. They make custom car colors also. Gravity, custom, and Splash, wonderful company. They make custom, when I say custom, these are actual color matched Yasmarina blue. These are actual real colors that match the actual car. And these are all ready to go. I'll show you. These are pre-thinned, ready. See, it looks just like water already. I don't want to spin this Patronus green. It took me forever to find. And this is still sealed. Yeah, this is still sealed. But this is like a chrome, yeah, liquid metal chrome blue. Shake well. This is pre-thin. A lot of the auto colors, like Splash, will be pre-thinned, ready to go. And you're going to spray them. A lot of times they'll be matte and they'll will require a gloss coat on top. But that's just the process of building a car kit. But that's it. You're going to be able to tell all of these once you take them. This is brand new Dark Star. I have not tested this brand yet. I don't even know what this looks like. Let's see what this looks like before we say goodbye here. Yeah, it's just like, let me put the cap on this. I bought all their metallics to test. See, it's thick. It's just like AK. You're going to thin it, so you're going to get it to this consistency. Yeah. Or I should say the milk. Look how thick that is. But that's good for brushing, because what you want to do is when you brush, I personally would go with Flow Improver. I would put a few drops. A Flow Improver, which is kind of like a retarder. And this is the consistency, just a few drops of that. Now you want to brush, brushing is completely different from airbrushing, because you're laying it on as it is in the jar. If it's too thin, it's just going to run right through all the grooves. You're going to lose everything. Whereas the airbrush, it turns it into a colored mist, which clings to the piece, which requires it to be thinner. But for brushing, you just want a retarder or a Flow Improver, or even the regular thinner I showed you, but you're only going to put a couple drops to get it to this, not quite muddy, but if you're flipping it, you can see it's going to trail off. It's not going to cling to the top. And for your solvent paints, if you want to brush, I recommend the retarder by Tamiya. It says acrylic, but it's this is good for their paint line, all of their paint line, and I believe it also works with the other acrylics. And this is mild retarder from Mr. Hobby. Theirs has a flame logo, so theirs is a solvent. And you just take a few drops. You're going to put it into your paints, thin it up a little bit, brush it on, you're ready to go. For brushing, you want it to be a little thick. I can show you one more before I say goodbye. All right, I'll show you how you're going to get it to the brushing consistency. You don't want it like this. It's just a little too thick out of the jar for brushing. So I can just take that right there. That's all we need, just to show you. All right, so you can see how thick it is, just like the other one. It's going to not flow at all. So we will use their brand Flow Retarder, which gives it time to seep into all the crevices and whatever you're painting. Usually it's my little shelf here is blocking. Usually it's a figure like this, and see all the little crevices and grooves. If you're painting that, you want it to flow inside. But if it's too thin and you're brushing it, you're gonna lose all of it. So you got to get that happy medium between airbrush thinness and brushing thinness. So with this, we're going to take a few drops like that. We'll just stop right there and mix it. It's not going to be nowhere as thin as for airbrushing, but there it is. That's just a couple drops, and look what it did. You can see all the pigment is still on the bottom. But that is good. Now this is beautiful for brushing. All right, I'll show you 1 second. Let me grab something. All right, let's go ahead and just brush some plastic here quick so I can show you how nice it goes on. See, unfortunately I didn't blend enough. You know, this is a wide area. You know, and that's it. And you're gonna need, you know, you're gonna need 2 coats when you're brushing. I usually do, but this coupled with the retarder really ends up being a good look at the end. It dries nice. It levels off nice. You know, I don't brush much. I'll brush fine details, and I do mostly airbrushing. And that's why you see most of the time I'm airbrushing on the channel. But you let this dry, you know, 5-10 minutes. Go back with another coat, and you'll be perfect. It looks almost great now. Look at that. So we get this in some thinner. 1 second. All right, I just want to get that brush into some thinner there. Let's cap this back up, and there you go. And that's it. Just practice it out. You're not going to have a problem. If you want, grab yourself a little thing of milk so you can guide what it looks like. Get a cup of water. You can tell what it looks like. You really can't over-thin lacquer paints or solvent paints at all. You're not going to have any problem at all as long as it comes to this consistency. With an acrylic, you just want to go a little thicker. That's why I showed you the milk. It's going to be a little thicker, and you don't want to go too much past that point. And for brushing, a few drops of retarder or thinner. You're not going to go nowhere near thin as that. And that's it. That's a pretty well simple guide. It works for all these paints. Half of these are pretty much ready to go out of the jar, and some of these are very thick. This Moto paint is thick. Gaia you've seen is thick. Display is very thick. Look at that. So, but if you can tell if it's thin, it's going to say it's airbrush ready probably, but you can tell right away it's going to look like water, you know. And that's it. There you go. That is my recommendations on how to thin either a solvent or an acrylic. I will put the links below to everything I can find. I won't put a link for this leveling thinner unless you go to a few hobby shops. Maybe Gundam Pros might have it. I'll see if he's got it. I'll put a link. Amazon wants too much money for it. It takes too long to show up. But they do have this, and this, you can see it's already empty. I've been using this. This has consistently been a really good acrylic thinner for me. So I will put a link up for this. And this is at Ultimate Modeling Products. There they are. They're in Europe, but they do ship to America. And I also recommend that one too. But yeah, there you go. Any questions you guys have below, please like the video. That helps with the algorithm. Absolutely helps with the channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We also will want to tell you guys that the next video, well, I'm hoping for, will be Sunday. We're going to announce the winner of the waterfall spray booth. I'll probably contact somebody tonight or tomorrow and make sure we get everything lined up. And we will announce their name on the next video. How's that? A water brush spray booth. A $300 booth shipped to you for free from me as a thank you for you guys being the best. I'll have a surprise announcement pretty soon. I have a new paint line I'm working on, and it's going to be very, very exciting. You guys are going to love it, and I won't let you down. As far as that goes, it's going to be great. So that is coming very soon. So we have more announcements to go, more videos to go. Please subscribe. Hit that notification bell below. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I want to thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Have a great weekend. We will see you in the next video. God bless.